The memories that linger, like whispers in the darkness, waiting to be unearthed. I sat in my father's house, a stranger in a new town, with only the faint connection of a single mom's friendship to guide me. It was there, one fateful night, that I met a girl, a couple of years older, with a kindred spirit. We'd become acquaintances, sharing stories and laughter, our bond strengthening over time. But little did I know, fate had other plans. A knock on the door, a moment of hesitation, and my friend Rob's world would forever change. I won't dwell on the gruesome details, but I'll never forget the sense of dread that crept over me as I learned of the brutal murder of my friend, Delaney. The thought of her funeral, the absence of my presence, still haunts me. As I grew older, I began to realize that life is filled with eerie coincidences. My wife's grandmother, a remarkable woman, had a similar encounter. She was walking home from the library, her footsteps echoing through the deserted streets, when a sinister figure emerged from the shadows. But she was no ordinary woman. With a .38 in her purse, she fought back, shooting the attacker in the neck. The man spent 5 years in a prison hospital before his untimely death. My own childhood was marked by an unsettling series of events. My sister, a brave and resourceful young woman, would often babysit me while my parents were out. She'd light up cigarettes outside, and I'd follow her, playing around, annoying her, and watching her smoke. One day, she noticed a white SUV with tinted windows parked at the end of our driveway. It returned the next day, and the day after that, always watching my sister. My father, a sheriff's deputy, called the authorities, but they never found the vehicle. The SUV's presence became a regular occurrence, until my sister decided she'd had enough. She confronted the driver, and my father, armed with his gun, chased after the SUV as it sped away. Another time, I woke up in the middle of the night, sitting up in bed, and saw our cat sitting in the doorway of my mom's room. As I watched, the cat walked into my room, meowed, and I turned to my mom, who was now awake. We both looked back at the doorframe, and a man was standing there, making his way out of my mom's room. My mom, with lightning-quick reflexes, threw me out of the screen window, and we both followed, screaming for help. The police arrived, but they found no signs of forced entry, only that our front door was unlocked. Years later, I experienced another unsettling encounter. As I was doing laundry in my basement, one of the lights blew out. I finished my task, dreading the dark walk back through the basement. As I exited the laundry room, I heard a loud, cackling laugh, like a witch's, right behind me. I didn't hesitate, bolting up the stairs. I never told anyone about it, and the sound has never returned. And then there was my friend Minji's story. She was tutoring a high school boy in her one-room apartment in South Korea when he asked to stay overnight. She was reluctant, but eventually relented. A few hours later, the boy woke her up, saying he was hungry. It was 2 a.m., Minji's eyes widened in disbelief, and I couldn't help but wonder what had transpired in those dark hours. These stories, though disjointed, share a common thread: the unknown, the unexplained, and the eerie. They remind me that life is full of mysteries, and sometimes, the truth lies just beyond our grasp. The darkness crept in, like a thief in the night, as Minji and I stood outside her apartment, the moon casting an eerie glow on the desolate street. I had woken up in the middle of the night, my heart racing, to discover a man sleeping under her bed. The police arrived, and we learned that a homeless man had been living in her apartment, hiding under the bed for 2 months. The thought sent shivers down my spine. As we walked to the 24-hour restaurant. The silence between us was oppressive. My mind was consumed by the unsettling discovery, and I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease. The neon lights of the restaurant seemed a distant beacon, a fleeting respite from the darkness that lurked within. Little did I know, this was only the beginning. As I drove through the desolate high desert, the shortcut I had taken led me to a scene straight out of a horror movie. A red Pontiac Fiero, its suitcase open, clothes scattered, and two bodies lying face down in the road. I stopped, my heart pounding, and reached for my 9mm pistol. Something was off, too perfect, too staged. I dropped into first gear, punched it down, and drove past the bodies, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. As I continued driving, I caught a glimpse of people emerging from the tall grass, their faces twisted in a macabre dance. My right foot slammed the gas pedal to the floor, and I didn't slow down until I reached the I-40 East on-ramp. I would never know what would have happened if I had stopped to check on the bodies. The memories of that night still haunt me, like the screams that echoed across the James River. My friends and I had been fishing, enjoying the peaceful evening, when suddenly, the air was thick with an uneasy feeling. The sound that erupted from the other shore was unlike anything I had ever heard, a blood-curdling scream that made every hair on my body vibrate. As we retreated to our trucks, the firelight casting an ominous glow, we waited for another scream, but it never came. The third scream, however, came from the bushes just yards away, and we hightailed it out of there, leaving behind our gear and our sanity. The memories of that night still linger, like the fear that gripped my stomach when I realized my family had been out and left the back door open. I jolted out the front door, racing to the neighbors, my heart pounding in my chest. The police arrived, and we discovered that someone had simply walked into my house, leaving no sign of forced entry or theft. But the most unsettling memory of all was the one of my daughter, her eyes wide with fear, telling me that there was something living in her closet. I had dismissed it as her imagination, but weeks later, when I received the call from my neighbor, telling me his son was missing, my blood ran cold. I hung up, my mind racing, and ran outside to grab my shotgun. As I stood outside my house, the lights flickering, the silhouette pacing back and forth in my daughter's room, I knew that I had to act fast. The deputies arrived, and when they entered my house, they found the neighbor's son, waiting in my daughter's room, his eyes fixed on her sleeping form in the moonlight. The thought sent shivers down my spine, and I knew that I would never be able to shake off the feeling of unease that lingered long after that night.